Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater. Today we'll be taking a look at how to fix a common problem when you're recording acoustic guitars, and that's finger squeaks. We'll be using a technique that I call manual compression to do this, as well as automating an equalizer. So I've got a Pro Tools session set up here. I've got 4 tracks of an acoustic guitar. We use several different mics on this. And let's take a look at the actual audio file. You can see here in this section, we've got basically arpeggios running, and here are a couple of really bad finger squeaks. Now you might be inclined to just grab those with a compressor and you could control them that way. And that is one way to do it, but a lot of compressors will add a particular sonic signature and they may not respond exactly the way that you want them to. For this type of really microscopic control, I find that it works better to actually use the automation within your DAW. Let's listen to this one more time for reference. You can hear we've got a pretty powerful squeak there. So let's do this. Let's move this over so it's a little bit more in the center of our screen. I'm going to go ahead and turn on our automation for the track, and I'm also going to display our volume envelope. You can see that I've already programmed a little dip here in the automation. I'm going to zoom in on that. Let's scroll this back. Click a little closer and we'll zoom in farther. You can see that what I've done is actually dip the automation across all 4 tracks to cut the level of that squeak. So let's listen to it. So it's cut down dramatically. What you don't want to do is cut it too much. If you pull it down too far, you're going to get a gap in the audio, particularly if some of the strings are ringing. But if you're careful with how you do it, which is why we do this using this micro automation technique, you can actually have that sound very natural. So let's take a look at how to do this process. I'm going to go ahead and delete the automation that I had there. We'll take that across all 4 tracks. So we're back with just our volume level set at the standard 0 default. To begin, let's go ahead and group all 4 of these tracks. That'll make it easier because we'll get the same automation on all 4. To do that, we'll select the 4 tracks, hit Command G. That calls up our group dialog, and now we'll type in guitar. Okay, now any changes we make to one track will also be made in the other tracks. So we'll select our pointer tool or our hand tool here, and what we want to do is click right on the edges of the loudest part of the squeak. And we're going to pull that down. Notice that as I was moving the top track, the other tracks are moving at the same time, so that everything is getting the same dip in volume, and we should maintain a balanced signal while we're doing that, or a balanced blend between the 4 tracks. Now let's listen back. As you can hear, we pulled that down quite a bit. Now we can customize that dip even more. We could pull this a little bit more this way, and we've got a bigger peak here in the center. Maybe we want to dip that even just a little farther. And let's listen to what that sounds like. Now to hear what this sounds like in comparison, we'll turn our automation off. We'll play it again. You can see by the blue line that we're not actually using the automation. It's continuing straight across here. So there's our volume level on our track without any automation. Now we'll turn our automation back on. And it's dramatically reduced, but I'm not hearing a gap in the signal. It's still sounding nice and smooth. And you can see that working actually if we go back over here to the mixer page. If we hit Command equals, it'll take us back there. Watch our faders, and they'll dip when we get to that point. Just a quick little dip there. It's actually slower on the screen than it is actually happening. It's happening really with sample accuracy. And so these are a little bit behind, and we're right there on that squeak as it goes by. Now, one other thing you can try to do to reduce the severity of that is to bring in an equalizer just during that finger squeak, and we'll use automation to do that as well. So let's switch back over here to our mixer. We'll hit Command equals, takes us back here. Now, it's easier to do this by creating a stereo bus that we can put this on. So let's go ahead and we'll hit Shift Command N. That will open up our dialog for creating a new track. We'll hold down the Command key, hit our down button to give us an aux input, and we'll hit our right arrow to give us a stereo, and we'll create. We'll label that guitar. Now we need to set our outputs from these 4 tracks to feed the input of that bus. We'll select those tracks, hit the Command Option key, and come up here and set our output to, say, bus 1 and 2. Those 4 tracks change to bus 1 and 2. Now we'll set our input for this to bus 1 and 2. And we also need to set our output here to feed our monitors. So you can see now when we play back, the signal from these 4 is being mixed and sent into this submaster, which is then being sent to our master output. Now what this lets us do is set up basically a master equalizer that will process all of the guitar signal. Otherwise we'd have to put a separate EQ on each of the guitar tracks. We'd have 4 equalizers to deal with. In this case we'll just have 1 stereo equalizer to deal with. So let's go ahead and choose an equalizer. I'm going to go with the straight ahead Avid 7-band EQ. We'll open that up. Now we need to find the frequency where this is going to be most effective. So let's switch back over here to where our track is so that we know what we're playing back. And we'll probably want to be in that high-mid frequency range, which is right here on the plug-in. Now an easy way to find that frequency is basically to set yourself up with a bunch of gain, but a very narrow Q. That gives you a very narrow equalizer. As we sweep that back and forth, we'll hear it bringing out different frequencies. So if we play this back, it will really have a tendency to show us exactly where that peak is at. Another thing that can help you with this process is looping that section so it plays back several times. So we'll select that, we'll turn on our looping here. So now that we've found our frequency, and you may want to actually find several different frequencies, I'm just going to do one here for the sake of this demonstration. You want to cut that down to hear what it's going to do for cleaning up your signal. So let's pull that, get a nice dip here. Let's listen to what that sounds like. Now to my ears, that squeak is less offensive without all those upper mid-range frequencies cutting through. The problem is that now all those frequencies are being pulled out of the entire track, and we don't want that. We want the track to sound uncolored until it gets to that spot where the squeak is, and then we want to dip that out. So to do that, we'll also use automation to control our equalizer. So let's go down here to our automation track, which is this one right here. We'll go ahead and make that large. Now we need to assign the automation parameters. To do that, first of all, we have to make those parameters available inside of our equalizer plugin. So we can look here, and what we're really interested in is controlling the high-mid frequency band gain, which is this one right here. So we'll add that to our list. We'll click OK. Now when we go over here, we can choose what we're looking at as far as the automation is concerned. By default, it's going to show us the volume. But if we choose this, here's our EQ 7-band, and there's our high-mid band. So now this control down here is actually controlling the gain inside our plugin. You can see that I've got it pulled all the way down. If we go back to our hand tool, we need to bring that level up so that we can dip it again, because all our control is now coming from here. It's not coming from the plugin. So let's go ahead and set our gain back to 0 inside the plugin. Now there's a tip for you. If you want to make very accurate controls inside of Pro Tools, hold down the command key while you're moving a control and it'll move by 1/10 of a step. Same thing whether you're working with automation or you're moving a control. So I've got this set to 0. You can see that my automation line is set back to 0 as well. And now we can add a curve similar to this to drop our gain level inside the EQ when it goes past that spot. So let's go ahead and click here. We'll click here. And we're going to drop that down to turn down those high-mid frequencies just during the finger squeak. Now when we play back, you can see that our control dipped here and the curve also dipped. So what we've accomplished here is, first of all, we've ducked the volume level right where our squeak is taking place, but we've done it in such a way that it's still transparent. It doesn't sound like we're pulling everything down. We've also set up the EQ with this automation so that it's ducking those high-mid frequencies just when that finger squeak is going by. So for the rest of the track playback, we have no EQ going on at all. It's just as if we had bypassed the EQ completely. The rest of the track is just completely pure passing through. I hope you find this technique useful. It's not something you're going to want to use throughout a track because it's pretty tedious to program all of that stuff. But when you need to fix just a couple of spots within an acoustic guitar track or another type of track where you have something loud that you need to control quickly, this is a great way to do it. Thanks for joining me for this video. If you'd like to learn more about this topic, or if you need information on the products that are featured in this video, give your Sweetwater sales engineer a call or visit sweetwater.com. I'm Mitch Gallagher.